Then, as now, certain style trends came to dominate the fashion scene. Indeed, the clothing for American women in the 1880s was defined by a variety of features, several of which can be readily found in bodices and skirts of the day. From the top down, bodices pick up in the 1880s where they left off in the late 1870s. The long tailored jacket with its cuff details, like those noticeable in this 1880s dress from MCHS's collections, still reigns supreme. Accompanying this style were high buttoned-up collars and narrow sleeves. By 1887, the bodice experienced a change that it would carry through into the end of the 19th century. The first of these changes occurred in the length of the bodice, which transitioned from about hip length back to the shorter waist-length style of the 1850s. The shortened bodice kept its tight fit, like the tailored jacket, but now could be cut up in a curve at the hip, be short all around, or have rounded points at the front. Sleeves also experienced their own attention during the latter half of the decade. At this point, there was a focus on the top of the sleeve, where a small vertical puff could be found. Added to this were bows, beads, and appliques, which drew further attention to the shoulder area. Setting up for the largest sleeves yet that would come in the 1890s, the puff sleeve continued to increase through the late 1880s. Similar to bodices, skirts of the early 1880s continued in the same silhouette as the previous decade, but they wouldn't stay like that for long. By 1883, the narrow tied-back dress of the late 1870s was rejoined by the back-waist bustle. Added over the A-line skirt this time, the apron overskirt was draped in the center of the back, and the bustle found itself placed lower down from the waist. In a more simplified style than its earlier iteration, the bustle was covered by a waterfall drapery design that cascaded down the back of the garment. Following the pattern of trends approaching their climax at the mid-decade point, by 1885, the narrow skirt had become wider to accommodate the larger bustle. However, different from before, the wider skirt was still not as full as in earlier decades. Indeed, with the bustle firmly in the center of the back, it created a more horizontal silhouette rather than an increase in total circumference. Therefore, the 1880s skirt remained fairly tight to the wearer's body in front. By 1887, the bustle had once again deflated, leading to sets of deep folds down the back of the garment, with excess fabric being supported by a small pad. At the end of the decade, these folds would also disappear, with a full-length asymmetrically draped overskirt taking its place. Incorporating these style developments into her wardrobe, the 1880s American woman would have been on the cutting edge of fashion as the last decade of the 19th century dawned.